Welcome to the Shifter podcast. Our guest tonight is known as the original Rocket Man. At the age of 17, he won the Most Outstanding in the Field of Engineering Science award from the US Air Force. He met with Stephen Hawking
Oh
and
yeah,
Werner von Braun
yeah.
and Neil Armstrong,
Uh,
allegedly the first human on the moon. And our guest also built one of the fastest rockets on this planet. And after years of consulting for the government, he was invited into Area 51 and is one of
right.
the few only humans on this planet that stood face to face with one of the UFOs that are now in 2024 getting so much attention in the media. Ladies and gentlemen, we meet one of the most outstanding minds in the field of spaceflight, David Adair.
I I I swear I don't know why people get so cranked up about things I've done, but it's just like everyday work for me. But all that you said was true. So
That's fascinating. And at one point, even the Air Force learned about you and became aware
yeah,
of you, right?
yeah. What happened was same year I did that, '71. Um, the United States Air Force showed up, and Colonel Walter Bell was the judge, and he looked at my rocket. He goes, you know, 10 feet tall, and he's looking at it. And he said, "Is this a static display?" I said, "Oh no, this thing runs. It really runs. You want to see a film on it?" And he said, "Sure." So I played the film because you can't fire an engine up like that in the gymnasium. You kill everybody. So he went, "God Almighty, that thing really moves." I said, "Yeah." So he gave me at Otterbein University. I picked up the United States Air Force Award. And I was selected as the most outstanding in the field of engineering sciences. And when I won that award, it changed a lot of things. It opened a lot of doors. And you might say I was put on the map at that point. And job offers started coming in from everywhere, but I never got a chance to do a job offer because I got kidnapped by the military when things got cranked up a whole lot more seriously than we thought. Um, they saw my rocket fly, the Air Force did. And that's what we were testing back at New Mexico proving grounds. So they said, "You're going to launch a fusion containment rocket." Yes. I said, "Never even heard of such a thing, much less seen one." I said, "Well, you're about to see it." Surprise. But hell, I didn't have time. So Colonel Williams tried to shut the rocket off and he couldn't. And I told him, if that field doesn't hold, we'll be staring at a sun not 93 million miles away, but only 3 miles away. And that's when I said, let's do the jumping jacks on the wall. It'd make a really cool shadow. He was horrified. He said, "This is God mighty." So now another guy steps up, and that's Arthur Rudolph. And he was, I knew about him because I was warned about him by Warner von Braun.
Did this bring you into Area 51 and then eventually seeing and ending up with a
Yeah,
alien
well,
ET craft?
Arthur Rudolph caused that to happen because he was working with the covert operations. He got off the jet, and it was a black DC-9. I'll never forget that. Pulled up at White Sands Proving Ground, and this black jet pulled up. And the only black jet I ever seen like that was with the Playboy bunny head on the tail. Hugh Hefner had a black DC-9. And so I made the comment, I was trying to make a joke. I said, "Where's the white bunny head?" And I'm looking at Colonel Williams, and he's like not happy. He's very upset. And then off steps out of the plane are all these guys in black suits, mirror sunglasses, in the middle of a White Sands, New Mexico. I mean, desert. They're dressed like that. And then a little guy behind them in a khaki outfit looked like Marlon Perkins from Mutual of Omaha Society. Anyway, he was Dr. Arthur Rudolph because von Braun showed me a picture of him. The reason it's significant is Dr. Arthur Rudolph that doctor is an honorary title. He actually was a full colonel in the Gestapo, and he ran metalworks with Warner von Braun, where they built the B-2 rockets for World War II at Peenemünde. And and he had a particularly motivated style. Rudolph did. He carried a big hook-billed knife. You fold out, nasty-looking thing. And if you made a mistake on assembly line, he would disembowel you, hang you from the rafters by your intestines, till you smelt so bad the guards just had to bury you. And he had killed thousands of people. He was in his trial at Nuremberg. He was found guilty of 100,000 deaths personally. So you got a megalo sociopath maniac here.
And he was in the USA at Area 51 working there?
Yeah, he came in through Operation Paperclip with von Braun. He got von Braun's family and all the other scientists' families together. And he told them, I'm not going to threaten you or anything. I'm just going to do this. I'm going to shoot a member of your family every single day until you start working and doing what I want. So what do you think is going to happen? They start working. And they start building the B-2 rockets. And it's just astounding work that they did. But these V-2 rockets are not little rockets. They're huge, the size of a 2-story house. They carry a 1,000-pound block of TNT in its nose cone, and they just fired out of Peenemünde across the English Channel, and it comes in at 4,000 miles an hour. Nothing can shoot it down. It's way too fast, and it just hits wherever it wants to hit.
Do you think these V-2 rockets in the Second World War were made in order to carry a nuclear bomb for Germany?
At the very end, we were so lucky because we kept bombing the living daylights out of Berlin and this other valley. And in this other valley, while they were doing the Berlin fire raids, they were bombing this building, and this building was a heavy water plant. They were making everything necessary to build a nuclear weapon. And then instead of the B-2 rockets, they had 4 or 5 B-10s. They were much bigger, and they flew 4,000 miles, 4,000 to 6,000 miles in distance. And when they're flying through space, they trail out a 2-mile wire. That's its antenna. It was guided controlled from 4,000 miles away. So in a single day, they would launch one of these V-10s onto Washington, D.C., New York, London, Berlin, and they all would vaporize into ash. And then we'd all be doing ZIO.
I've seen some documents that the U.S. side had found some material in Germany to build these nuclear bombs, and they were carried on submarines to Japan and also all these heavy water factories.
Right.
And that is, made it even possible to build the so-called I think little boy and fat boy.
Fat man,
right?
fat man and little boy, which was our design. And one was a plutonium-based, the other one was a uranium-based weapon. But yeah, all that was going on, and it wasn't made up or people invented this stuff or it's just a story. That crap was real. They were really working on it. We just beat the Germans by a few weeks is all we did. And what won the war for us is I don't know, it's like an oxymoron. Military intelligence is what won the war. We knew where the heavy water plants were. We kept bombing them every single day and didn't let up on them.
In the vast wonders of the universe, psychic powers are not a myth. They are a researched fact. Among us walk seemingly ordinary people, regular human beings, but within them they harbor an extraordinary secret. They possess tremendous dormant psychic abilities, a reservoir of potential that lies untapped, unexplored. These ordinary people hold within them the power to perceive, to manipulate, to transform the world around them in ways humanity can barely begin to comprehend. There is a place where your psionic powers can be maximized, and you can utilize them for the betterment of this planet in a group setting. Join the Star Tactics Academy and maximize your mind. More information available at www.allshifthappily.now.com.
We knew where the transportation was between them. We sunk railroad cars and trains just to slow them down because they were assembling an intercontinental ballistic missile. So we had to hurry up with our Trinity tests, and that's how we end up with Oppenheimer and all that. How do you think this all happened, y'all? It wasn't by luck. Well, it actually was. We were just damn lucky that we won. You know, we were inches away from losing the entire war, and Hitler would have won the entire planet. God knows what it'd be like today. I don't know. Might be better off because look at us today. It's awful. But they, so these people went through all this stuff. Von Braun came over in Operation Paperclip. See what happened when we captured Peanut Monday? There were 250 German rocket scientists in one cluster, and that represented at that moment in time in 1945 all the known knowledge of rocketry and space age and all that stuff was right there in one group of people and nowhere else on the planet, which is really weird. So when they captured Peanut Monday, the scientists, instead of turning themselves into the Gestapo, they ran and hid. And they split almost perfectly in half. 120 went to America, 125 went to the Soviet Union. And those two groups of people, when they hit the United States and Russia, the superpower space program took hold right then. That's where it came from. It's the most incredible story. It's like, you're making this up. No, I'm not. I ain't that smart. I couldn't make up a story like this. It really happened. And so von Braun and his people came over, and they came into America through the southern border. Look how many people we got going through now.
That's how you get in, right?
Yeah. Well, they came in on a school bus, and they were green card holders, Mexican immigrants, blonde hair, blue eye Mexican immigrant. Come on. And they put them out in Nevada in these Quonset huts. And there was the birth of your space program. And they brought all the stuff we captured in Europe through a group of people called SHAPE, Supreme Headquarters Allied Powers Europe. And SHAPE was responsible for getting all the German rocket scientists and the V2 rockets, which we later named bumper rockets, and all the supporting equipment and everything, and all took off and there was your space program born out in White Sands in New Mexico with the proving grounds. That's where it all started, right there. Then later they end up moving to a swamp in Florida and called it Kennedy Space Center. It's just incredible. But anyway, von Braun was involved in all that, and but he was not a Gestapo. They had his family, and what are you going to do? Stand there, or are you going to work? If you don't work, you watch your aunt, your uncles, your nieces, your nephews, everybody in your family members all be murdered a day at a time. Well, what are you going to do? You're going to go to work. So that's what happened.
Times, right? That shows like how countries and their psychology is like unhealed in certain parts, you know.
I'm sure. I feel sorry for Germany because you have 2 world wars in the last century, and that's a hard burden to carry. And I find it fascinating that the embodiment of all the knowledge of the space age wound up in the German brain. I can't explain that one.
Yeah, and I mean, now we're approaching the UFO sector too, because Germany and David Grush, who's like recently came forward, he talked about the UFOs that Mussolini, Italy had, and the Germans as well. I've seen documents that they had UFO craft.
Von Braun had mentioned it more than once to me that there was such a place, and there was all kinds of stuff they were moving into, and they were moving into flying saucers.
They were very much, and then we go a little further, even after allegedly the war had came to an end, and then you had like Operation High Jump, where certainly the US, right, where they were confronted with man-made UFOs in the south. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, that's right up there with the test dummies they were throwing out at Roswell, saying, the weather balloons dropped dummies, and that's why they saw bodies and stuff. Man, it's just such BS. No, they had, and there's even a bigger story besides New Mexico Roswell 1947 crash. 2 years earlier in Trinity, there was another similar Roswell crash, and it was even bigger. And there's a book called Trinity. You should read that. Von Braun knew all about it, so something went on out there. And that same thing, same exact event. UFO came in, bounced off the ground, headed on over to a mountain range and collided into it. Crew members left. Well, apparently this was the same thing. But what brought down the Trinity people, I think they got hooked up in the radar. We were just inventing radar after World War II. Well, radar apparently shut their engines off. So they got kind of marooned with it. Can you imagine being an alien and crashing on this planet with us here? Lord, give me a gun, let me shoot myself, because I don't want to deal with those humans.
I have a question that I wanted to ask you since we talked together on the Gaia show. So you went into Area 51, and shockingly, you discovered that there are, re-engineered alien crafts, and one of them you discovered that it was like a sentient, conscious being. And something that I was asking you, I wanted to ask you is because I came across that in certain, more recent projects. They built these crafts with this consciousness so that the UFO itself can master tasks and answer some questions and come up with solutions that the pilot would never come up with, right?
Yeah. The crafts that these aliens are flying around in, the crafts are also AIs, artificial intelligence, and they are designed before they get to a planet to thrive in the environment of that planet. Like our atmosphere is 14.7 pounds per square inch, nitrogen based. And so they're built that way to thrive in our environment. Whereas the pilot of a spacecraft like that would probably die. That's just brilliant engineering is what they're doing.
So there you are, highly decorated, extremely knowledgeable about space flight, and you enter Area 51 because you're invited to that, and you also see the craft. Can you take us into that? Feel?
Well, I was hardly invited. I was hijacked. I was kidnapped and forced to go to it by Rudolph. Rudolph wanted me. He didn't tell me why we were going. He didn't tell me when my rocket was coming back down that he wanted it in White Sands. He wanted it over in Groom Lake because he had an agenda running. Because they had something in the basement of Area 51 that they wanted me to see. So when we got down, I was talking about we were driving down this causeway. I was looking at all these crafts and stuff, and I saw the Valkyrie sitting in there along with these other teardrop avocado shaped vehicles, and they weren't. Somebody said, "Well, maybe they were just static models, like you build models." No, There was NC8s on them. That's a big square yellow thing that supplies electrical power. They had cables plugged into them. They had big round yellow air ducts hooked to them, air conditioning. That means somebody's inside working on it. They need air conditioning, stay cool, and electrical power. And they had drip pans on. These things were working. They weren't just static models. They were flying prototypes. If they were that, I don't know. They might have been even production models. But according to the fellow that worked on the isotopes, an S4, he said that they're probably more than likely production models. He called a sport model. See, this is 1971. I am 17 years old at this time.
You saw the craft and you touched it, right?
And well, with the guy jumping out and putting his hands on the palm scanners, eyeball retiners, scanners, it's 1971, y'all. It's not until 10 years later, by Texas Instruments, we get a calculator.
Were humans on the moon, Dave? Hey, sweet souls, this is Tim. Thank you so much for enjoying this. This is a 3-hour talk between me and David Adair. So there's at least one more episode coming up for you. Leave me a sweet comment and I'll get back to you.